Hi, everybody. I hope you're having a great day. I've got some notes here for us to go over. You should have gotten a note catcher from Mr. Harvey. I recommend putting this on 1.5 or 2.0 to kind of speed through it, but pause where you need to just to kind of go over some of our notes of our next unit, which is the Age of Exploration. You should have already done the vocabulary for this and the maps, so you should have a good idea of what we're talking about and where we're going. But I hope you guys are all doing well. Miss everybody, and I will be back next week, so I look forward to seeing you guys again. All right, let's jump in. All right, so our constructive response question, this will be at the end of your notes that you're going to answer for what innovations allowed the Europeans to travel farther. So what are we going to learn? New innovations in sailing. Portugal leads the way. The Spain joins in, and the Dutch also join in. So we got all sorts of stuff going on. Let's figure out where we're headed. All right, the age of exploration. So Europeans had been exploring via the Crusades for a long time. And the Crusades, we talked about it briefly, but that was when the church sent soldiers and armies to foreign lands to convert them to Christianity. Also, you had people like Marco Polo who were traveling around the world and detailing their journey, his experiences. So you had a little bit of this, but for the most part, Europeans didn't have much interest or really ability to explore foreign lands. By the 1400s, a desire for wealth coupled with advanced sailing techniques really sparked exploration. We're going to talk about our three G's: gold, glory, and God. And we'll talk about that in the next unit, but I believe that's an answer on your assignment you're going to do next. All right, so the Europeans, they seeked new trade routes, right? And their main desire was new sources of wealth. And you could think about that like in the gold of the three G's. Yes, going and mining for gold. But the truth is, it was the accumulation of wealth. And most of that was from spices and the luxury goods from Asia. Demand was higher than supply, right? So that meant merchants could charge higher prices. England, Spain, Portugal, France, they all wanted to bypass these Italian merchants because remember, the Italians had a real kind of um, leg up on all of these trades, but they wanted to find new sea routes for themselves, and they also used Christianity as a means to travel. That's the God part in the gold, glory, and God. They wanted to convert new non Christians throughout the world. All right, so they're tools of exploration. And I know that says a page on there, and we don't have a textbook anymore. But we had a new vessel called the Caravel. Okay, it was sturdier. It used triangular sails that were stronger against the wind. It also had a large cargo area. It had a shallow draft. And that just means like the spot between the bottom of the boat and the shore was a little bit shorter, a little more shallower. And so that meant it could get closer to the shore. And there also was an instrument called a sextant, and that was used to determine latitude and longitude. All right, so this is your caravel, and this was made mostly by the Portuguese, but it had the lateen sail, which is just kind of our triangular sail on the sides with a square top sail. Here's the sextant, and really all it was just a way to help study the maps and the stars so that you could, work your way and navigate easier. All right, Portugal. Where is it at? It was on your map, but it's right here next to Spain. I don't have a laser pointer, so I can't show it to you, but I hope you can find it on the map here. Aha! Forgot I added that in. All right, Prince Henry the Navigator. He started a school for navigation in 1419. This was the Portuguese we're talking about here. So, Portugal kind of led the way in this age of exploration. Okay, so they had these sailing innovations like the caravel. They were also the first country to establish trading outposts on the west coast of Africa. This was an untapped area as far as resources and exploration, which of course led to exploitation, but we'll get there later. Prince Henry, that was the navigator. He's the son of the king. He is the most enthusiastic exploration explorer. Prince Henry wanted to reach treasures of the East and also, the God part of it, spread Christianity. So, also along with Prince Henry, we had Vasco da Gama. He sailed to the eastern side of Africa and reached southwest India. So da Gama and his crew, they were astonished by all the spices, the silks, the gems that they found in India. It was a 27,000-mile journey that was worth roughly 60 times the cost of the trip. So he made some cash, right? It also gave Portugal a direct sea route to India, so they didn't have to go through the middlemen of like the Italians. All right, here was his route. Now, I know what you're thinking. Long way to go to get to India, but that was the shortest, most efficient route that they could find at that time. It took them about 2 years to get there. All right, here's Spain, right next to Portugal. Okay, Spain and Portugal, they got a little rivalry, which we'll talk about here. All right, so Spain also wants to make some claims, right? They're like, well, hang on, Portugal's making all this money. Why don't we go after some of these trades? Okay, so Christopher Columbus, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. All right, he's got this bold idea of finding a sea route to Asia. He goes the wrong way, right? Instead, he's the first European to discover the Americas. The Portuguese suspected Columbus reached Asia and claimed land for Spain that Portugal had already claimed. But he wasn't actually in Asia. He just thought he was, right? So this rivalry, continues to grow. The Pope says, hang on a sec, I'm going to step in. We're going to settle who has claim to what land. So he comes up with the Treaty of Tordesillas. Okay, this was in 1494. It divides Spain and Portugal's claims. So anything west of that red line you see on the screen, that included most of the Americas, that goes to Spain. Portugal gets any of the lands to the east. That includes modern-day Brazil. If you wonder why Portuguese is still the official language in Brazil, it's because of the Treaty of Tordesillas. All right, the Dutch, let's not forget about them. So otherwise known as the Netherlands. They declared their independence from Spain in 1581. They established the Dutch Republic. And 19 years later, so by 1600, they had the largest fleet of ships in the world, almost 20,000 vessels. Okay, the Dutch East India Company, they were a company that minted money. Okay, like literally, they made their own money. They made treaties, they could raise an army, and they were richer and more powerful than the British East India Company. Eventually, the Dutch drove out the English and established dominance over the East Indies. All right, so here's just all the different trade routes that the East India Company had. All right, so what was the result of all this? The age of exploration begins a competitive and expensive pursuit that would lead the Europeans to India, the Far East, eventually the New World. Here's your constructive response question. Make sure that you answer this on your sheet. I'm contemplating letting you guys use all your notes again for our second exam. But you've got an assignment after this. Again, I hope you guys are doing well. I miss everybody. Email me if you have questions. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful day.